Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, as per usual. And today we're going to talk about some of the interesting Scandinavian traditions. And I figured since, holidays are nearing, holidays are coming up, we're going to have Halloween soon, Christmas, New Year's, and so on and so forth. I figured I would talk a little bit about some of the Scandinavian traditions. And note that I say Scandinavian, not just Swedish, so I'm not just going to talk about the Swedish traditions, but also about the Norwegian and Danish. And yes, after, I don't remember when I made the video about 5 unusual facts about Sweden, where I accidentally mentioned that Finland is part of Scandinavia, and I thought for quite some time that Finland was part of Scandinavia, which after reading a lot of comments and reading a lot of sources, it's not Scandinavia, though there are a few sites that say that Finland is Scandinavia, but the majority say it's not, and I just went along with the majority, obviously, and here I stand corrected on that. But I am going to talk about one particular tradition that relates to Finland, so again, forgive me for making it sound like Finland is part of Scandinavia. I know it's not part of Scandinavia, but I still figured it would be an interesting thing to talk about in this upcoming video, in this upcoming sequence when talking about the interesting Scandinavian traditions. So I figured I would start off with Iceland, and I know Iceland is also not part of Scandinavia, but let's just move with the flow here. And Iceland has the so-called, the Iceland's Yule lads, called the mischievous Christmas trolls. Forget Santa Claus. Iceland has its own unique Christmas characters, the Yule lads. The 13 mischievous trolls, each with their own distinct personality, visit Icelandic children during the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. Instead of the stockings, kids leave their shoes by the window, and the Yule lads leave gifts or rotten potatoes, depending on the child's behavior. And it's kind of like how we have it in Switzerland to some degree, or it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, where on the 6th of December, I'm pretty sure some Scandinavian countries, or the majority of them, celebrate the 6th of December, the St. Nicholas Day, or the Nikolaustag in German, where if you're a good child, you're gonna receive some presents in your shoes. You have to put your shoes next to the door, or like in front of the door. If you're a bad child, you're gonna have some mischievous present, or like not a present, but like something bad like coal or something that's not really nice, and it's usually done so by a character called Ruprecht in the German legend. So this is kind of something what Iceland maybe does, except more for Christmas rather than the 6th of December. So this kind of has like a similarity between Iceland and Switzerland, or Germany, Austria. There's another interesting Scandinavian tradition called the Curious Case of the Gavle Goat in Sweden. So Gavle is a city, a place in Sweden. Every December, the Swedish town of Gavle erects a giant straw goat in the city center, a tradition dating back to 1966. However, the Gavle goat has become famous for another reason. Almost every year, mischievous vandals attempt to burn it down. Despite heightened security measures, the goat's fate often ends in a fiery blaze. This bizarre tradition has turned into a cat and mouse game between the goat builders and the arsonists. To be honest, I didn't know about that. I didn't even really hear of that case or hear of this tradition up until I was doing the research. And apparently this is something that happens in Sweden every December, and it's been only going on since 1960, so about 60 years now almost. And this kind of reminds me, well, to burn it down, not really, but we have something similar. We have every March in Switzerland, and I think it's like March or April, something like that. We have the book. It's called the book, and it's usually done in the canton of Zurich. And also remember that in Switzerland, we have, like, each canton has kind of its own traditions, actually. Like, we don't celebrate every tradition in unison. So some cantons have like really just particular traditions to themselves, and Zurich has this kind of similar tradition where they erect a snowman, and they would like light it on fire and see how long it takes to burn the snowman. I think the longer it takes to burn it down, the worse the summer will be, or something like that. It's kind of like the Groundhog Day, where it kind of predicts how the summer will be, like if it's going to be a very wonderful summer, if we're going to have a lot of crops, if we're going to have good weather, or the other way around, if we're going to have a lot of rain, a lot of rainy days, a lot of bad weather, and so on and so forth. And this kind of became a tradition on its own over time, and that's really unique to Zurich, I would say. Here in Bern, we don't really have that. We don't really celebrate that. And this kind of reminded me of this Gavli goat case, except this is not for Christmas or anything like that, or December, but rather for the different months of the year. So we have another Scandinavian tradition. I think some of you might know. It's called the Waffle Day in Sweden. So on the March 25th, Sweden celebrates Waffle Day, originally called Vårflogsdagen, Our Lady's Day, translated, which sounds a bit like Waffeldagen, or Waffeldagen, I think is how I correctly pronounce. Waffle Day. In Swedish, the day has transformed into an occasion to indulge in waffles topped with cream and jam. And yeah, I have to admit, I actually had some Swedish waffles quite a few times, and they're very delicious. I can highly recommend that. And honestly, despite hearing about this Waffle Day so many times, I really don't fully understand whether this is just a fun tradition or it has like a particular background meaning, like maybe something happened on that day. And the reason why I say that is because, again, referring back to the Swiss traditions, God, I can find so many similarities maybe here, compared to Sweden and Switzerland, or just Scandinavia in general. So we have every November we have so-called Sibylamarit. So the Sibylamarit is a day where we celebrate onions. It's kind of like an onion day. So like in Sweden, there's a waffle day. Here in Bern, and particular to Bern, we have an onion day, and it's every last Monday of November. Usually like the 22nd or 24th of November, or whenever the day is on that last Monday of November. And the history behind it is that several hundreds of years ago, Bern was on fire. There was a big fire here in the canton of Bern, and a lot of people lost food, and a lot of people, were dying and were starving. And the neighboring canton, the canton of Freiburg, they basically sent a lot of aid to the canton of Bern, and among those aids, or among the support, they sent a lot of onions to Bern. And as a way to kind of say thank you to the canton of Freiburg, they made this holiday into Onion Day or something like that. And ever since, I think it was 16th, 17th, 18th century, something like that, you can correct me on that, it remained a tradition. So my question is whether the Waffle Day has something of that sort as well, if something happened there, or if it's just a regular holiday, like a fun holiday to just celebrate waffles for no particular reason in that sense. So let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have any more info or detail on the Waffle Day. In Norway, we have so-called Norway's Russefeiring, a graduation celebration gone wild. So each spring, Norwegian high school students participate in a month-long celebration called Russefeiring, marking the end of their school days. The students, known as the Russ, don wild outfits, party hard, and engage in pranks and challenges. While the tradition can be chaotic and controversial, it's a rite of passage for Norwegian teens and a fascinating cultural phenomenon. So I guess in every country, in every culture, for students, for school kids, there is a certain tradition. In every country, students do something fun or interesting at the end of the school year as a way to celebrate their achievements, or to celebrate simply the end of the school year, anything of that sort. And Norway has this kind of celebration. So I can't really relate to any Swiss traditions here. We don't really celebrate that much, I would say. As sad as it sounds, we don't really have those wild celebrations after school. I think the max that we do is we just kind of drink a little bit. Students would often go for alcohol, spend some time with friends and family. That's about it. Nothing too crazy. There is no rite of passage or anything of that sort. And the last one, and this is something what I mentioned earlier about Finland. I'm pretty sure you guys know that, maybe. It's called the Whimsical Wife Carrying Championships in Finland. The small town of Sonkajärvi hosts an unusual sporting event every summer, the Wife Carrying World Championships. In this eccentric contest, husbands carry their wives through an obstacle course, with the winning couple taking home the wife's weight in beer. The event draws competitors from around the world and is a lighthearted celebration of Finnish humor and athleticism. So this is a championship or a tradition that a lot of Finns like to do, and I think also Estonians picked it up later on, and I think now almost every Nordic country, maybe, I'm not sure, I assume Sweden maybe does it as well. They might have some wife carrying championships, or maybe Norway or Denmark, although I've heard way less of that. I think it's more popular in Finland and Estonia. And basically every year they have a wife competition, a wife carrying competition, where the husband carries the wife on his back, and they have to go through some obstacles. They got to run around a little bit, go through some mud and wild areas, and then whoever is faster wins. And this kind of became a humorous tradition for Finland and Estonia later on in particular. So yeah, I think this wraps up the video with regards to interesting Scandinavian traditions. I'm pretty sure there are way more traditions that I haven't heard of, or that I maybe should have mentioned. If you know any fun or interesting traditions, please let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, I appreciate your support. I very value it. I appreciate it very much. And as always, if you have any recommendations, what videos I should make with regards to Scandinavia, Sweden, any other country maybe, or just in general, philosophy maybe, let me know as well. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.